You're listening to Guitar Talk with Dave and John.
All right, welcome back to Guitar Talk. I am Dave.
And I am John.
John is back and in rare form.
I am.
John last week, he had some construction at his house.
I did.
And what happened this weekend? Anything? Any gigs? Any rehearsals? Any?
Since the last time we've been together, I had a gig, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I also burned the shit out of my thumb on Saturday, so I missed rehearsal yesterday because I've got a big old blister. You probably can't see it, but it's right where I hold the pick. So that's fantastic. But yeah, that's kind of what's happening.
Hold on, that's not
what's
happening since the last we spoke. I believe you have now taken in a new amplifier into your home.
Oh, you're talking to Gear Talk. You're listening to Guitar. What is this, Guitar Talk? Oddly enough, it is. Yes. Yeah, I did. Do you recall the video that I did on the Mesa Recto Verb?
I do.
Okay, so I was playing a Schecter American-made guitar in that video.
Yeah.
I ended up selling that guitar.
Wow.
I had that guitar for a while, and I didn't play it very often. I think that video was the last time I played it.
Yeah.
So I finally decided, I'm going to get rid of it because I never play it. And so I got rid of it, and I put some of that money into a Splawn Quick Rod 100.
Wow. The Splawn is kind of like a, I want to say it's like a Marshall type of thing, like based off the 203.
Totally modded Marshall. That's
right.
The whole
isn't
deal.
It 2203, it's got a master volume, yeah?
Trying to see it back there.
Oh, yeah. So it looks like the old 59, but it's...
it's in a 1959 box.
Right.
So
folks, 1959 is not the year. 1959 is simply the model number of the original Plexi that I believe it was given that number in like 1965, I want to say.
Okay. Yeah, that was like a catalog number.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so the general tone profile of the amp it's a modded Marshall.
Right.
It's got two channels. You've got basically what would be a clean, unaffected, non-master volume channel. It would be like 1959 channel. But then there's the second channel, which has three different variations. They call them gears because everything is car related. So there's a first, a second, and a third gear. What they consider first gear is going to be a modded Plexi sound. Second gear is like what they call a modded 800, and third gear is what they call a super modded 800. So out of those three gears, they sound pretty similar. It's what you'd expect. I mean, all the Marshalls sound pretty similar. So the difference between the 800 and the Plexi sound, for example, is really like you hear a bump in the low end on the 800 and a bump in the gain. Not very much, but a little bit of a bump in the gain. And then the super hot rodded 800 sound Gear 3, it's just a touch more. It almost feels like you're kicking a tube screamer in front of the amp. So there might be like a diode clip or something that happens to the amp on that stage. I'm not sure. Or they add a gain stage. I really don't know. But it's I don't use that one. I generally stick between,
Splawn
first gear and second gear.
Wasn't that amp basically like a Van Halen chasing the VH Brown sound type of amp?
I don't know if that was the initial impression, not impression, the initial intention. May have been.
I always thought it was for some reason, because when Splawn came out, it was like, I just remember seeing all the things about the Brown sound. One thing I noticed about people that chase that Brown sound is they always go way more in the gain than
too much.
Than the initial tone that Eddie had. When he was using that Variac, it does something to the gain. It adds like a sponginess to it, but I don't necessarily equate it with gain. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
just another something going on.
All right. So there's some compression and all right, folks. If you're chasing the Brown sound or you're chasing any sound, Randy Rhoads sound, don't forget about all the elements that go into making that sound hit the tape. I mean, hell, even the sound hitting the tape is going to change the sound.
Sure. Yeah.
So if you're chasing that sound, find yourself a good preamp, a good board, figure out what the board's EQ settings were, figure out the mic placement, figure out the tape. It's just, there's so much going on there. But if you can get in the ballpark, fine. There you go.
Exactly. That's all you're looking for is ballpark. Because
be happy in the ballpark. There you go. I will say this about the Splon so far. This is, in terms of like what I like, in terms of my sound, it's pretty good. I hesitate to say, like, oh, this is the best amp I've ever had, because you know how it is. Every 6 months, there's a new one. But, man, right now, at this moment in time, it's really good. And it might be the cabinet that it's sitting on top of. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah. Mesa standard cab.
It's not a standard. It's a traditional.
Traditional, whatever.
Right. Yeah, it's what they used to call the stiletto cab. So it's a 1960 size box, which is the Marshall nomenclature for the standard Marshall cabinet. Right. So that's the size of it, and it's got the Mesa Vintage 30s in it, and the Mesa Vintage 30s don't really sound like the Chinese Vintage 30s. They're a little different, but this amp sounds so good through that cabinet. It's incredible. And I started thinking the other day, as I'm playing it and talking to my buddy about all these different amps that I've had, because I've had, VHTs, Bogners, you name it. And like right now I'm playing this thing and I'm thinking, like, this is the best sounding amp I've had in an extremely long time. I can't think of another one I like more. And then I start thinking, since my Mark II C+. But then I realized there's a common thread. The last time when I had that original Boogie Mark II C+, the other thing that I had with it was this cabinet. I had a Boogie traditional angled cabinet with the Boogie V30s in it. And at that point in time, you can ask Dave Ross, even, because we played together for a while. And folks, you don't know who Dave Ross is, but Dave Levine knows who Dave Ross is.
I sure do.
And this is a conversation. So, butt out. No, I'm just kidding. So
it's very simple who Dave Ross is. He's a guy who brews his own beer. He plays bass. Now imagine him driving in a huge convertible Cadillac Eldorado with a captain's hat on and a 60 ring cigar in his mouth with a pair of sunglasses. That's Dave Ross.
That's so funny. But he's the nicest guy in the world. He's a great guy. But anyway, yeah. So I used to play with him, and I had this original Boogie Mark II C+. And aside from it breaking down too much, it was unbelievable. I had to get that amp fixed like 3 times in a year. So I don't know if that tells you anything. I ended up getting rid of it. But that amp was the best sounding amp I think I ever had. Lo and behold, I get this one. I start saying the same thing about the Splon as I'm listening to it. And I realize, oh, shit, maybe it's the cabinet.
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's like when we buy all these amps and we do all this stuff, they have like a amp speak to us. Like we dig the amp and it's like, this thing is speaking to me. And then eventually sometimes it stops speaking to you and you want to get rid of it. And it's like funny how that kind of stuff happens. I always wonder, like with my Fender, because I feel like the tubes are dying again. And I guess I use the amp a lot, but it's like, God, it seems to be going through tubes. And I bias it, and it's right where it's supposed to be. But I mean, the dual rectifier for me has always been an amp that sounds like, okay, good enough. I don't chase that sound so much. I'm always like, yeah, it's in the ballpark. I'm all right with that. Let's go. I can dial out some of the bass that I don't want in it, and it sounds good enough to go. And I have never been like, to me, it's like, and then people will come up and they'll be like, dude, your tone, you're this, that. It's like, I don't care. It's the way, people, when you play, people kind of relate to it. And I think the more you get into like the higher gain stuff, like years ago, I went to a concert, and this is going back. Somebody brought up the club, The Channel, the other day, which was a club in Boston. It was a real shithole. And I saw Yngwie there, and Vinnie Moore opened up, and opening up for him was a local guy named Joe Stump. So Joe went on, and Joe was playing through Marshalls, and his tone to me was just not good. You could barely hear any of the notes. It just didn't sound good. And then Vinnie Moore came on, and it was even higher gain. And again, nothing sounded good to me. I was just like, you can't really hear everything he's doing. And then Yngwie came out and played 2 notes, and I'm like, boom. That's
right.
Right. That sound right there is what I've been wanting to hear. I can hear every fucking note. Everything is clear as a bell. And it was like, why couldn't I have heard that? So it's not, so what I'm saying by this is it's not just the player, because, those guys, obviously, Vinny and Joe, were out there, playing whatever gear they could find and put it together, but their sound wasn't that good. But if you get it in the ballpark, then the player takes over. And so, there's an awful lot of tone chasing that goes on YouTube. People buying tons of gear and all that stuff. And the thing that John does, because I will say John buys a ton of gear, is John gets rid of the gear that he's not using. It's not like, it's not like he's running a museum like I am over here. I mean, and when you're the scheme of things, this isn't really a lot of gear compared to some guys. But most of the stuff, I'm out gigging all the time, so it's like.
I will say at the moment, I feel like I've got some bases covered, because I had the 2 rectoverbs. I ended up unloading one of the rectoverbs, just because I thought, if I'm going to get this Splon, I certainly don't need 2 rectoverbs. I can just live with one of those. So I got rid of the newer of the 2 and kept the older one, because there's a certain darkness to the sound of the older one that I just liked a little bit more. So I kept the older one, and that's the one that I played the Elvis gig with the other weekend.
Nice.
And
one is version 1.
That's version 1, yeah.
The newer one you got was version 2.
Right. And there was a small sound difference. I don't know if it's because the speaker or whatever, but it doesn't matter. It was super subtle. I just so happened to like the version 1 just enough better to be that was the one I was going to keep. Right. So anyway, I also marked off the speaker cabinet a little bit, so because I know exactly where the microphone's going to go on that one. And man, I'll tell you, having good mic placement at a show instead of just having a sound guy come and randomly drop a 57 in front of your mic or your cabinet makes all the difference in the world. It sounded super good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Rectoverb 50 sounds really, really good. It cut through. It sounded, the clean sounded great. The dirty sounded great and smooth. And yeah, it was killer. Good show.
It's a great amp, and it's an extremely light amp. if you're used to carrying 150-pound amps, because it is about 85 pounds.
You know what's hilarious about it? The 412 cat. So I buy this 412, and I get this Splon head, and Benson.
Yeah.
Another person that I know that you guys out there don't know. He's the bass player in this Elvis band.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I don't think I ever told you that. Yeah, so he's playing bass in the Elvis band, and he was like, dude, you're crazy. Why are you getting a full stack? It's going to be impossible to move, and yada, 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 because, I initially was playing this gig with the Helix, which was a backpack.
Right.
So I'm really going, full tilt the other direction. He was just saying, dude, what are you doing? This is going to be way too hard to carry. And I said, oddly enough, this 412 speaker cabinet only weighs like 14 pounds more than the Rectoverb 50 combo. And you don't have to bend over as far to pick it up, and you get 2 handles, so the weight distribution's even better. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, The Rectoverb 50 has conditioned me to where 412 cabinets are a breeze.
Right.
It is nuts, though. I absolutely don't need a 412 cabinet.
But there's something about that stage look.
Totally.
All the Marshalls you need.
Yeah, well, yeah, Yngwie's got, I wonder how many, in his wall of Marshalls, I wonder how many actually still have speakers in them.
Oh, 2.
Probably.
Sure, just 2. And maybe 1, but probably 2.
I wonder if he's, because he's got the whole wall going back and forth across the entire stage. I wonder if he has like one in the middle that's like active, one all the way over, and then another one at the other end that are active, so that, you know, he's got his stage sound wherever he is on stage, or if he's just using in-ears or relying on monitors. I don't know. I have a feeling a guy like that, that's kind of old school, is relying somewhat on hearing his amp blaring at him.
Wait, well, didn't Angus, out of all those dummy cabinets, have one over by Malcolm that was working? One 4x12, so that he could hear on that side and vice versa? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's nuts.
It is nuts. I know the Slayer guys do the same thing. Kerry Kings doesn't use full stacks. He uses half stacks because he doesn't like the sound of like the head level speaker just shooting at him, you know, probably right. Because his sound stinks. And why would you want that chainsaw sound?
Right.
Like right in your ear. But what he does is he does 4 cabinets, all loaded and all working, shooting at his knees across, you know, this way across the stage. But they're all active because he's one of those guys that wants the stage volume.
Right.
So, yeah, some guys out there like that. I don't anticipate doing any more than 1 cabinet. But you're right. There is something about the look. When I go, we're playing House of Blues sometime in June, I think, again. And when I go and do that gig, I'm going to take out the big rig because it looks cool.
Yeah.
You know, but the small gigs, like our next gig is at a bar. When we do that, it'll just be the Rectoverb.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Got to be reasonable.
My next bass gig is in 2 weeks. I have a rehearsal for it on Wednesday. I had a rehearsal for it yesterday. Saturday, I played an acoustic gig, and it was a last-minute type of thing where someone was like, hey, can you and Emily come down here and we'll call off songs and play each other's songs. We actually had some really cool 3-part harmony stuff going on. It was a lot of fun, so we're going to do it again.
Sounds cool.
And, yeah, it was real fun. And then I have a gig with FM Station this Saturday down in Plymouth, Mass. And then I have a funk gig in a week after that. And that weekend, Lonnie's in town with his
guitar show.
With his amp, yeah, the LA Amp Show is going to be here. That should be interesting.
Yeah, I assume you're going.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll stop in. More just to say hello to some peeps and check out what's going on. I think it'll be a cool show. It's in Waltham, technically, some hotel. But you know, like that's what I've been to the Van Nuys one many times, and it's always a good time. So I've been dealing a little bit again with the flakes on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, because I have this idea of finding the perfect and expensive Strat and then making it how I make it. And sure. People have seen my Warmouth stuff and you know, basically something like this, you know, but I'm going to have it, I'll offer it to the public. I'll auction it off on the show, and
that's a cool idea.
Yeah, somebody will be able to get a guitar that you know, and if nobody buys it, I have another guitar.
Right.
But you know what I mean? So it's win-win. But I mean, if somebody wanted to, because the people always ask all the time, and then somebody would be able to say, hey, you know what, these things are fantastic, and then maybe I'd make another one just to have, it's something to do, have fun with, and document it on the show. But yeah, so I've been dealing with like some flaky people, just like some guy had a Japanese Aria with some knockoff neck. Which the Japanese arias were made at the Fujigen, where the original
Oh, yeah, the old Ibanez.
and Fender and all the Fender stuff, the
Oh,
original.
okay.
Yeah, so I was like, do you know how old is it? Is it made in Japan? Does it have the traditional neck pocket? Oh yeah, it's 4 bolt. I was like, all right. Is there an overhang on that? I mean, it was just like one thing after the other. I couldn't get straight answers. Then finally, I was like, you know what? It's $100 he's selling it for, and it has a burst bucker 3 in the bridge. How can I go wrong? I'm paying $100 for, if I have to throw the whole thing away, I got to pick up.
Right.
And he's like, oh yeah, people have been a pain in the neck trying to deal with. I said, yeah, I know, I understand. You just tell me where to meet, and I'll meet you. Give me an address, and I'll be there. Let's try to do it Saturday. And then I never heard another word from him. I'm like, the pain in the ass is the guy. Can't seem to get it together to call somebody back or message. I gave him my phone number. So it's like, but eventually I'll find the right one. And it'll be
Sure.
It'll be a very cool thing.
It's funny. The Craigslist universe is funny. People don't get it. It's customer service. You're offering a product, whether you think like it's a different world of commerce because it's, your personal product or whatever. Dude, it's still commerce and it still works the same way. And it's absolutely insane when you go on Craigslist and you see people posting a guitar and they'll say, like, oh, I'm selling this, whatever. I'm selling this Japanese Stratocaster. My price is $750, and I'm not going to take a penny less. And like, this is the attitude of their post. And it's like, no, bro, you're going to get what people are willing to offer you. You don't get to dictate that price because people are just going to look at it and say, no, I'm good.
Right.
I'm good. I'll pass. Thank you.
Right.
And,
well, they have attitudes about it. Like, if it's here, don't ask if it's here, blah, blah. It's like, just sell the fucking thing and stop trying to act like a douche.
I'm looking for this cabinet that I just recently bought. So I emailed 2 guys because there were 2 of them available in Los Angeles, which was a surprise because this cabinet, generally you find the standard oversized ones, but the traditional ones are less common. So anyway, there's 2 guys selling them. Both of them are asking $600. They're both clean. So I emailed both guys and said, would you be willing to take 4.5? One guy got back to me right away and said, yeah, I'll do it. Come and pick it up. And so I went ahead and did it. The other guy was like, no, man, this is my price. This cabinet doesn't come up that often, yada, yada, yada. If you want it, come and get it. And I emailed him back and I said something like, oh, there's another one in town and the guy's taking my price, so I'm going to go and get it. Anyway, long story short, at the end of the week this week, I get another email from this first guy that was holding out on his price. And he was like, hey, if you'll, come and get it, I'll give it to you for $450. And I sent a message back to him saying, it's too late. I already got another one. And then for some odd reason, he kept emailing me for like the next 2 days, basically persisting that I buy it from him for $450. I don't know. The Craigslist universe is just so weird. It's like, if you've got a piece of gear that you want to sell, treat people like, you'd want to be treated when you're buying something. If you want to be treated like a complete a-hole, all right, fine. Treat them like an a-hole. But I'm guessing you don't want to be treated that way.
Well, the thing with him is probably sitting there thinking, I can get 6. And then people started offering him probably 4. He probably got a few for 4, and he's like, I should have took the $450. And then afterwards, he's sitting there calling it on you like you should buy it from him because he fucked up. And plus, he had an attitude about it like, oh, it's $600. It's like, it's stupid.
The proper response for somebody calling in and saying like, hey, I'll give you 4.5 for it is, just a cordial response like, hey, I'd really like to hold firm on my price a little bit. If I can't get any movement on it over the next week or so, I'll hit you back.
Right.
Just something like, it's like, okay, fine. I respect that. I get it. I don't want to get lowballed and just take anything that I can get for a piece of gear I'm selling.
Right.
But if it does sit for a little while, you have to realize that your perceived value is just your perceived value. It's not what the market's going to be willing to pay for it, you know? So sometimes you got to look around and see what, you know, other people have sold the same thing for. You know, eBay's great for that, for local sellers. eBay can go, or you can go on eBay, you can look up a piece of gear and you can check sold listings. I don't know if you ever do that, but it's kind of cool. So if you're...
Yeah, sure, because people will sit there and tell you what stuff goes for on eBay. And I'm always like, well, what did it actually sell for? Not what somebody's asking for it.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. People all day long throw that out there. Hey, man, these are selling on Reverb for $800. It's like, no, they're not. It's just one guy asking $800 for it, and he's never going to get it.
Right. Yeah.
It's
people need to be aware of that, because then you can look at what it's sold for. You can actually look on Reverb, and they'll show you the history of the sale of that product.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there's a lot of resources out there. So if you want to move items quickly on Craigslist, use those resources and figure out what the actual fair market value is, not what your expectation is, because those are different things.
Yeah.
You're wearing a Charvel shirt right now.
Yes.
Why do they keep dragging the corpse of Jakey Lee around? I'm seeing all these videos of his bloated corpse, and I just don't get it. I don't get it. I'll give the guy credit. He's done one thing that I have yet to do. He has written an absolutely iconic riff that most guitar players that like heavy music try to learn how to play. He's got one iconic riff. You know, Bark at the Moon is something that people try to play.
Didn't he have a couple of songs on that record, though? Was So Tired on that album? So tired.
I think so. Was Spiders in the Night or something stupid like that?
And then the bass player, Phil Suzanne, what song did he write?
Oh, I don't know. The lore behind all of that stuff is that Ozzy wrote none of it.
Well, right. But the guy, Phil, who sometimes plays with Howie, wrote one of Ozzy's big songs. What was it? Something, it has the word night in it. Let me,
Did he write Shot in the Dark?
Shot in the Dark. Sorry, that's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Jake, but that was the other album. So yeah, I guess I don't know if I would consider that a big guitar song though.
No.
But,
no, in fact, the bass player wrote it. I mean, I never understood the Jakey Lee lore. It wasn't my thing. And I'm sure he's a fine player, and maybe I don't know. He is definitely one of the guys listed in my book of I Don't Care.
Yeah.
There's a video of him where he's like showing how to play Bark at the Moon the right way. And I watched it and I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I just don't care. And not to sound like that if somebody cared, because I mean, there's a lot of players, like for the metal guys that watch my channel and like all the heavy guys, when they see me talk about Johnny Marr from the Smiths or Robin Guthrie from Cocteau Twins, they're probably rolling their eyes, and I'm fine with that. I don't care. It's why it's called Dave's Guitar Channel and not This Is Your Guitar Channel. You know what I mean? It's like I just basically talk about the stuff that influenced me and stuff that I like. There was a lot of stuff that went by in the 80s where I was like, yeah, I didn't dig that. And then there was some stuff on the perimeter that I dug, but like, I really liked the 2 albums with Randy Rhoads. And then
they were great. I've been listening to Diary of a Madman like crazy lately.
It's the greatest guitar sound on that album. It's much better than the first album's tone.
Right.
And but then you listen to the 2 Jakey Lee albums, and I lost interest in Ozzy. And then the first album with Zakk Wylde, I'm not interested until, what's the album? No More Tears. Right. And then I thought they hit lightning in a bottle again. And it's like, oh, that's great. Like, I thought that was a really good record.
Yeah, there's a lot of writing on that was really well done. I thought I thought like the more of the ballad, more of the sensitive songs on that album were great. Like Mama, I'm Coming Home was great. Road to Nowhere was great. Time After Time was great. And I think a few of those songs were actually written by Lemmy.
Well, Lemmy wrote the words definitely to Mama, I'm Coming Home.
Yeah.
Definitely wrote the lyrics to that. Because I think by that record, they had I think they lost, like they weren't in good standing with Bob Daisley, who wrote a lot of the lyrics prior.
Right.
But, and all the Sabbath lyrics were mainly Geezer Butler.
Mm.
Yeah,
it's pretty wild. So Ozzy is, in a way, almost like a pop musician, how everything is written for him. He's one of the only metal guys I can think of where it's like that.
Well, I will say that Ozzy, when you listen to Bob Daisley talk, or you listen to anybody else that wrote something with Ozzy, they don't put it that way. They think Ozzy actually has a lot of influence. In other words, Ozzy will say, no, that melody needs to be, and tell you how much in the meter it should have, and he'll kind of sing it where it should sit, and then they kind of fit it to fit that. But he has more of his hand on the melody and the song than you would think.
Right. Okay.
But at least that's the idea that I got listening to Bob Daisley talk. There's some great interviews on YouTube with Bob Daisley. And then there's some music also like that went past me in the late 70s, early 80s, like Whitesnake we talked about recently. Right. For me, I got turned on to Whitesnake around 1984 when Slide It In came out. I didn't realize, to me, if someone said that was their first album, I would have been like, and it's great. I had never heard of the band before that. But going back, and when Howie had said to me, listen, you got to go back and listen to these records. And he was right. They're really good records. And I know you love Burn.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I love the one after Burn, Stormbringer.
Okay, yeah.
I love Stormbringer.
Coverdale was great back then.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Not the same singer he was. I mean, he can't even sing today. You were at that concert with me, weren't you, when we went to go see Whitesnake and Judas Priest?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like there was like a 4-hour guitar solo covering up for the fact that he didn't want to sing the rest of the night. It was terrible. But you go back, they were great over those records. Ready and Willing, Saints and Sinners was a great record.
Kid. Whitesnake, more like spray tan snake. Do you remember? What he looked like at that show?
Oh, yeah, it was awful.
Oh, man. Yeah. He looks like he's been melted in the sun.
Well, some of these aging rockers don't age so well, and now he looks like an older lesbian woman. In fact, if he were to go on tour with the woman, who's the woman that sang, Damn, I Wish I Were Your Lover?
I don't know.
Damn, I wish I were. Sophie B. Hawkins.
Okay.
He could go on tour with her and do a mother-daughter tour. He looks like her mother.
Oh, poor Coverdale.
It's just, it's almost like, you look at David Gilmour, and I've said this many times. David Gilmour had the long hair. There's some great videos of him live at Pompeii where they're talking about Dark Side. They're working on Dark Side. And Gilmour is so stoned in that video. His eyes are like slits, and he's like, you could tell he's high out of his mind. And then you look at him now, and he looks great. Looks like you know what I mean? He's a legend.
Yeah.
Peter Frampton. Some of these, they're not holding on to the, Kevin Dubrow, God rest his soul. Kevin Dubrow had more hair when he died.
Yeah, that he did
on his head than he did. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I know. It's, I think the same thing could be said for Petty, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, Petty went through many stages of More here, less here, more here. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really something. I always, yeah. You look at the Stones, and you've got was it Charlie Watts?
Mm-hmm.
He looks like Del McCoury kind of, and so
But he
Charlie
always,
Watts just looks like this great, like typical old man, and then you got Mick Jagger, whose face looks like an old man, but he's got the haircut of like a 22-year-old woman. I just don't get it. It's like, your hair is not, dark brown and vibrant. Each their own. In a way, we've getting back to Jakey Lee, he has embraced looking like an old man. He certainly does. Or a dead bloated corpse, one of the two. I feel bad. I feel bad for the guy.
Elderly Native American woman.
So yeah, exactly. She's the soothsayer in every horror movie where there's like a Native American from the 80s.
Right. Like if I were to go over to his house and he would offer me something to eat, I would imagine he's over a cauldron putting in the blood of a
Poor guy.
No. Again, it's just some of these guys won't let it go.
Well, he's out there right now with Red Dragon Cartel, and I tell you what, I have a couple of people that I know who like it. They think it's great. I've listened to it, and to me, it's like the new Whitesnake. It's like, boy, you couldn't put any swing on any of the songs. You couldn't have the drummer do something other than 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know, I get bored with it. I'm like, yeah, it's a rock record, but it's like, man, isn't there going to be something other than like this straight, clean cut feel? It just doesn't do anything for me. But all these guys are out there. They love it. Whatever. Let them have it, I guess. I'm just old and crotchety.
You know what it is, though? Music is dead. As sad as it is. The other day I was watching Columbo, and I was flicking back and forth to see what else was on commercials, because I've seen this episode maybe 36 times in the last year. And I'm not kidding. And so I put on American Idol for a second, and it was like some overly flamboyant kid dancing and singing, which is fine. I just don't care. And I was like thinking to myself, because Lionel Richie was dancing, which was probably not the best thing for ratings. It was awful. But then you had Katy Perry and the other guy, Luke Bryan, dancing, and everyone's having a good time. And they're like, this was the greatest. And I'm like, this guy, with the song the guy played, I'm like, this guy couldn't get on the radio.
Yeah, probably not.
It's like...
But it's all for show. None of that's real.
Right. It's a karaoke show. It's all it is.
Yeah. Not only that, the producers are, talking into their in-ears saying, whatever they want them to do.
No, I know, but I'm saying the show's a karaoke show because, I mean, you could probably pull 3 or 4 people out of the history of the show that had a music career.
Yeah, we've talked about that before.
And this is someone that's you're getting exposure to millions of 30 million people, and you still can't have a music career afterwards. You got to, that tells you the business is dead.
Yeah, the business is certainly... Well, if any, it's dead, or it's changed a lot, and I don't know. There's a few artists out there right now who I really like.
All right, well, I'll say this: name 5 rock bands that came out in the last 5 years that are decent.
Oh, well, I wasn't going to name rock bands, but I was going to say, you know who I really like? I really like Charles Bradley. You know Charles Bradley?
No.
He's this old man. He actually died in 2017, I found out, and that was really disappointing. He was this old James Brown impersonator from Florida, and he got signed by some small label called Daptone Records in 2013 when he was 63 years old. He got signed, and he made 3 soul records with them over the next few years, and he died of stomach cancer in 2017, late 2017. He's fantastic. The guy's voice is like 1 in a million. Absolutely fantastic. So And then who's the other one that I was listening to? Are you familiar with Lee Fields?
No.
Lee Fields, another guy, just like old grandpa black guy doing soul music, but his voice is fantastic. His band is good. So I've been listening to a lot of that. But to name you 5 rock bands that came out in the last 5 years,
Uh-huh.
oh, I don't know.
Can you name one?
No.
All right. That's my point.
That's right. But
go back in time. Go back to 75, 85, 95. Can you name from those years 5 bands that started within the last 5 years from that year?
yeah, probably.
Probably. Name about 200 of them. What do you mean? 75. How many bands started from 1970 to 75?
Like 6.5. I don't know. I'm not thinking about the chronology of it right now. Now I feel like I'm on a pop quiz.
1985. How many bands can you name that came out within 5 years of 1985?
Living Color.
That's one band.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah.
It's a pop quiz right now, and my brain doesn't work for that.
Every band. Red Rider was out in like 81. You've got.
What did they sing?
Every Lunatic Fringe.
Oh, right.
You can name a million bands from that whole era. Saga, all those bands. But then
Bert
you go to
Lonnie.
95, Bert and Lonnie, Donald and Ivana. Go to 95, same thing. You get to 2005, it gets real hard. Go now, forget it. Music's dead. And then you got people that, and you know how you know music's dead? Because Joe Bonamassa's out there and they're like, Joe Bonamassa's playing, we should go see. Is music that bad that this guy is the draw? Because it stinks. Sorry, everybody, it stinks. He's not a great singer and he doesn't have great songs.
Plays
guitar good. Yeah, you know who else played guitar good? Alvin Lee. And 10 years after sucked.
That's hilarious. Who's headlining Coachella? Oh, excuse me. I think Ariana Grande headlining Coachella.
You just said what's the band? Red Cartel. What is the name of that band?
Red Dragon Cartel.
Red Dragon Cartel in a group of a sea of bands that are good will never be mentioned.
Yeah.
But because people are so starving for or thirsty for a glass of water, they're like, well, there's a dirty pond. Let's drink something from there. That's what I think of Red. That I can't even tell you what the name of the band is. What is it? Red Dragon Cartel?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think that it's like we've gotten so to the point where music, like, let's put it this way. Like, I mean, people talk about Steel Panther like it's a legitimate band. It's a comedy act.
It is a comedy act.
It's an act. It's a comedy act, and it's fun. But because
right,
there's,
I'm gonna throw you. I'm gonna go down the list of Coachella people this year,
okay,
and you're gonna tell me, and we're gonna go quick. You're gonna just say yes or no to whether or not you've heard of them before. Ready?
Okay.
All right. 70 Shake.
What?
70 Shake. Yeah, just give me a yes or no because we're gonna blow through a bunch. All right, 29 Palms.
Great song by Robert Plant. Never heard of the band.
It's also a city in the desert here by Palm Springs.
Yeah,
88 Glam.
No.
100 Drums.
No.
Arizona.
How come everything has a number? Arizona.
We're past the numbers because it's all alphabetical, so all the number bands started.
Okay.
I'll just skip through a bunch here. All right, Bass Nectar.
No.
Bad Bunny.
No.
Beach Fossils.
No.
All right, let's get into C's here. I'm skipping a whole bunch of stuff.
I hope so.
Cool Era.
No.
Dave P.
No.
That's a hell of a name. How about Dennis Lloyd?
No. Has any of these people have a record deal or made a nickel in music?
I don't know. How about Diplo?
No.
Okay. Can we get to... All right, we're going to skip E and go right to F. Fortet?
No.
Gabe Reel? That's
No.
not Gabriel. It's Gabe space Real. How about Henry Pope?
Nope.
All right,
That name sounds familiar though.
Okay, so maybe there's something to that. All right. Ice Age.
No.
Hooray for the Riffraff.
No.
All right. Oh, you know this one, Jaden Smith.
Is that Will Smith's kid?
It is. Yeah. That's
I didn't know
the reason. You didn't know him for his music.
No.
All right. You've heard of this girl, Casey Musgraves?
Oh yeah. I like her.
I don't know what she does, but
country bluegrass.
Okay. How do we feel about Kolsch? Wow, there's an artist that's literally named themselves after a German style of beer. Kolsch.
No.
Okay. Lauren Lane?
No.
Little People?
No.
Lost Desert.
Now, if Little People is a band of midgets, I would go see them.
It's not.
Then forget it.
Yeah. Oh, for Christ's sake. I can't believe how many people are on here that I've never heard of. We're really aging ourselves here. How about
I don't think so. I don't think any one of these people are making records or selling records.
How about Nick Fanciulli?
No.
Or Nina Kravis?
No.
Okay. That's actually an artist name. Ookay. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
How about Polo and Pan?
No.
Or Pusha T? Or Rat Boy?
No.
Oh, good Lord.
But
I
challenge
you're
you
so out of the loop.
And tell me what they've sold for music.
They haven't done anything, I'm sure.
No, of course not.
You've heard of Tame Impala?
No.
You never heard of them? I've heard of them.
No.
The 1975?
No.
Okay. I'm really surprised. I'm not seeing more stuff that like I'm familiar with on this list because I'm skipping all kinds of stuff and I'm not really seeing anybody that I know. I thought for sure there'd be some big bands like Chili Peppers or something like that, but it's all Ariana Grande and Aphex Twin are like the only two that I think I've heard of.
Yeah, Aphex Twins, I know. That's an electronica band.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so that's Coachella. So yeah, this is not the era of the guitar player.
But it's not even the era of the song. Like no. I said to you, name 5 bands. Name 5 rock songs that came out in the last 10 years that were good.
Right. And I'm clearly the wrong person to ask that question to because I don't listen to terrestrial radio.
What year were you born, John?
81.
Okay. So you're 13 years younger than I am. All right. So you're not even 40 yet.
Right.
You should know you would definitely still be in the loop. I mean, 10 years ago, you were in your 20s.
Right.
So 10 years ago, what songs were coming up? That was great rock.
Right, but I'm just the wrong person to ask when it comes to that stuff because even when I was in my teens, I was very rarely listening to what was new.
The point is when you ask somebody something, you're not asking somebody a fan of that genre. You're just asking somebody who's around then because stuff will come to you. I mean, you could say you don't listen to dance music, but you know the song "Get Into the Groove" by Madonna. Get into the groove, boy.
I don't know if I know that one.
Actually, you would have been 4 years old when it came out, or 3 years old. But you know, like Madonna songs, like "Life Is a Mystery."
Yeah.
Right, because you were 10 then.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So stuff permeates regardless of what your fancy is.
Sure.
I can't say I'm when I was a kid, I was a disco fan, but I could name every disco song because it permeated the it cuts through. And so therefore, like, none of us listen to Latina dance music, but we all know the Macarena. What's out there in the last 10 years? 10 years ago, what year was that? 2009. So we were at West LA. What song had come out around that time that was worth a shit?
To our taste, or just to people? Things
No,
that
no,
people like.
that's a public song that we thought is a good song.
That's a good question.
It's a great question because I can go back to.
I mean, I know Imagine Dragons are hot. They're a band that has been out within the last 10 years.
Those songs are horrible.
I don't know any other songs. This is what I'm saying, though. It's like, I mean, my loop is different. When people say, like, you're X years old, you know, you got to be in the loop somehow. It's like, dude, my loop is the same loop that you're in. Hanging out with all you crusty old fuckers.
Okay. Do you know the song If I Could Down, If I Could Down? I have no idea what the lyrics are. It's called Chasing Cars by whatever Snow Patrol. I have to teach
the name. I know the name Snow Patrol.
Yeah, the song was
Chasing Cars.
My point is that it permeates.
2007, it looks like.
Right. I don't think it's a good song. I'm just saying it permeated.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. I know this song. I've heard this song before.
Yeah, not my kind of music, but it cuts through. You know, what was that song? Remember the song "The Freshman"?
Yeah,
when I was young, I knew everything.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's just. I'm just saying, you know, because so, you know, when you like as a writer myself, sometimes there are songs I could say, yeah, I'm not crazy about that song, but it's a good song. Like you understand the construction, like so. You understand that the song has sellability and it's a hook, and you know, sometimes whether you like it or not, or whether you appreciate it, you know, I appreciate a lot of the stuff from the yacht rock stuff because I love those type of extended harmonies and chords. Like I taught the other day on my channel, the Logical Song by Supertramp. You know, and you open up to a B minor, to a G major 7, to an F sharp minor 7. It has all these nice colors. And, you know, today's songs seem to be a little DCG to me, you know. And people can argue that that's Sweet Home Alabama, but really not really. You know, there's a lot more going on in a song like Sweet Home Alabama than DCG.
Are the songs still DCG, or is that?
Well, I'm just
5 years ago, and now it's totally different. Now it's just electronic.
Well, right. Sometimes it's not even a chord. I mean, who knows? But I'm just saying, as far as like for me, where I felt like music was going, like I felt a lot of electronica music was starting to get somewhat into that jazz, which is why I like Fila Brasilia.
Even Fila Brasilia is an old band, right? That was 90s.
95 is the album I like, but they still make music. But Paul Oakenfold has a song called Ready, Steady, Go, or Ready, Set, Go, Korean mix from the Collateral movie. And that's one of the greatest vibes. But you know, and I just, I'm wondering what's going to go on with music. Is rock music going to come back? You know,
it's certainly not the mainstay in radio and all that, but there are some bright spots that I see anyways. You know, my circles. All right, so to go back to circles for a second, the one thing I can say that I'm pretty pleased with is there are a glut of like teaching academies here in Los Angeles. So you get a lot of kids that are learning how to play the guitar. And that still happens. They don't get radio play or anything like that, but there are kids learning how to play the guitar. I did a setup for a kid the other day who was playing bass, and the kid was a heck of a bass player. He's like 12 years old, and he came in and, you know, he started feeling the instrument after it was set up, and he starts playing this stuff, and he was good. For a 12-year-old, I was like, damn. I was like, how good are you? And he goes, boom, boom, boom. And I was like, you're the best bass player I've ever heard. No, he was good, but it's
on a boom, boom.
No, I know what your joke was. But you know, there's some bright spots in terms of like kids still learning it. here's another thing.
Well, yeah, but they're also learning it because their video games are created by guys who are our age, and those guys are putting our music in there.
Well, however they're feeding it to them, and they're picking it up. That's the point, really.
Right, but you were saying that radio today doesn't really play that, and I would say, I think if you look at Sirius satellite radio, you got the 60s on 6, 70s on 6, and I think those channels are very popular channels for them.
Well, yeah, absolutely, but the terrestrial radio stuff, the AM, FM, doesn't cater to... They only cater to their advertisers. That's the whole point.
Right.
You know, it's like we're just going to pacify the airtime until we get to the next commercial and make our money. And so it's like, how can we keep people's attention? Well, we'll just play the simplest thing that, you know, the general consensus generally likes. It's lame. But
like I heard a name the other day, Post Malone. Somebody was telling me about him. And I said, I don't know who you're talking about.
Right, I know who that is.
Started telling me a bunch of songs by him, and I'm like, I don't know any of those songs.
No, you wouldn't.
I heard them, and I'm like, and I'm glad I didn't know any of them.
He's this white kid that's kind of chubby, and he's got tattoos on his face, and he's got a pube stash.
All right.
You would look at this kid and be like, wait, this guy's famous?
Yeah.
Oh, but I think he came up with like Justin Bieber, or he somehow is associated in that circle. So people, you know, they take to it for some reason because everybody's weird. And I don't get it. It's not for me to get.
I
will say this. I DJ'd my daughter's elementary school spring social, as I do every year. Right. That was last week. And this year my theme was I'm playing nothing but old R&B and soul. So it was all Motown, all soul. I think I talked to you about that a little bit.
Yeah, we talked.
And it went over really, really well. All the parents and everything was like, wow, the music was really great today. This was like a lot of fun and ba ba ba. So I think that.
Did you play Let Me Tell You About Some Sweet Soul Music?
I did not play that one.
Oh.
But I mean, it was like a set list of, or not a set list, but a playlist of like 65 songs. And it was all that stuff. And everybody had a good time. I just think it was so much easier to put together this really incredible playlist and have everybody happy the whole time than like trying to shuffle through all the modern stuff that people might hear on the radio. Well, first of all, you have to find radio edits of everything because otherwise none of it is clean enough to even play on, you know, an elementary school situation, which is amazing to me that like everything is that crass, you know.
It's vulgar to be vulgar. There's a song that a student asked me about called Cupcake, which I thought was, I think that was either the artist or the song, but either way, it was completely profane. The thing is, so the other day I make myself this 60s mix of one-hit wonder type songs and songs from the 60s that I like that you don't hear enough. Like, and I'm thinking about doing a video of just where people could put it on their put YouTube on my channel, and it would just listen to, it would be like 2 hours of those songs. So if you're working at a desk job, and of course the copyrights would go to whoever. I don't care. I don't try to monetize my channel anyways. But so the thing was that it's like it started off, I had about 30 songs, and then it's like 90. Now I'm like, I got like 4 hours of music, and I'm like, it's like the stuff is so easy to find. And like when you and I were talking about the soul stuff, I asked you like about 5 songs, and you were like, no, I didn't put them on the list. And I start laughing, not because you missed it, but because there's just so much great old soul music that it's impossible to get everything.
Right.
Whereas if I said to you today, play 10 songs that are current that are good, you're going to be scratching your head past one.
That's true. For my taste. It's true for my taste. And probably, it makes me wonder about
I'm going to say this again. Joe Bonamassa is selling tickets.
This is true.
People are going.
Who's going?
If that doesn't tell you people are bored, if that doesn't tell you there needs to be something going on, then you are oblivious. And no disrespect, Joe Bonamassa. I just don't care. There isn't a song there. There's nothing. No one, whoever tells you about Joe Bonamassa never says, "Did you ever hear this song? Did you ever hear this song?" It's never about the song. It's, oh, he's a good player. Who cares? I don't care.
If
Nobody
cares. If Joe Bonamassa is selling a lot of tickets, that should tell you right there that the guitar is not dead, because the only people going to that show are people that play guitar.
Well, that's just
nobody else has heard of the guy.
Maybe. Probably.
Your Aunt Cindy is not going to see Joe Bonamassa unless she just recently picked up a Martin.
Voice.
What's that?
They're not going for his singing voice, that's for sure.
No, it's somebody. It's a crowd of guitar players that go to see it, and I'm a guitar player that's not going to bother. But if there's enough people out there going to see it, that means there's a lot of guitar players. I'm guessing that his crowd is primarily going to be like the over 45 white male crowd.
Yeah, probably. Oh, yeah.
That's got to be it.
Well, yeah, it's like in my funk band yesterday, somebody brings up the song where they want to play Lowdown by Boz Scaggs. I'm like, it's really not a funk song. To get people dancing. Yeah, if we're playing the 70 market, if I stop playing nursing homes, they'll get up and dance. But he actually said that he thought more people would dance to Lowdown than Ain't Nobody. And it just tells you who his target audience, who he thinks it is, and who I think the target audience is.
Right. Well,
you know what I mean?
I do.
Because if Lowdown came on, I'm not getting up to dance.
Are you getting up to dance anyways?
If Ain't Nobody was playing and my girl said, "Let's dance," I'm dancing.
Well, that's because she is going to make you.
Well, because she wants to get up and dance. But I mean, now if I'm there with my grandmother and Lowdown comes on and she says, "Come on, let's dance," I'm going to be like, "Where do they exhume you?" That's a horrible joke, folks. On nothing but something.
She has the same doctor as Jakey Lee.
God. So, anyways, Jakey Lee is a real sad story about Jakey Lee. Somebody ran over a family member of his, and he went up to them and went, "Finny." Sorry, it's a horrible.
Oh, that's so terrible.
Was it? No.
Is he going to be in the new Pet Sematary movie? I haven't seen it yet.
You said we wouldn't be prepared to get rid of him. How did you? We used a pretty blonde to lure him in. When she answered the door, she told the milkman to follow her to the bathtub. She took off her clothes and asked the milkman to fill the tub with milk. The milkman said, "Do you want that milk pasteurized?" And the blonde replied, "No, just up to my boobs. I can splash it in my eyes." That's when we jumped him.
So stupid. The fact that he's telling the joke so serious, like it's like a haunting story, like, and it's just like he's telling the story to everyone. They're all listening. Like, I'll put it in there. But he's all listening to him intently, and he's like just telling the corniest joke. Fucking love it.
Funny. Put it in there.
There's a great music store. You asked if there's any good music stores out there. There's a great music store in Lexington, Massachusetts called the Music Emporium. Mainly an acoustic guitar shop. It has your regular Taylor, Gibsons, that type of stuff, but it has Collings, Santa Cruz, Froggy Bottom, a lot of high-end bluegrass, Dana Bourgeois, just a lot of great stuff. And it has the Collings electrics. He sells car amplifiers. It's a fantastic store.
Cool. So I had a conversation the other day with my buddy Arnold. He's this German guy that's an old. I shouldn't say old. He's not that old. He's in our age, in between our age groups, I think. He's a guitar player. He's been playing for a long time. He did the whole GIT thing, and he's like a real gear nerd. And he's one of these guys that likes Red Dragon Cartel. Oddly enough, this guy's a hell of a guitar player. But the conversation was kind of funny because we were talking about frets, as we often talk about frets. And he picked up that little hammer that I picked up recently, that P90 hammer.
The one that's right behind you.
Yeah, that one. Which that guitar, I think I told you, the fret job is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like, what in the world? And so I tell him, as he's playing it, I'm like, you notice how good the fret job is on that guitar? And he's like, oh, it's perfect. And I was like, that's an Indonesian guitar. He goes, oh, yeah, I know. And then he says in his heavy German accent, he goes, the way that fret jobs work nowadays, he goes, the American stuff, like, from the custom builders, the American stuff is the best. And then he goes, and the Mexican stuff is the worst, which I thought was really interesting because he says the American stuff's the best, the Mexican stuff's the worst. And then he said, the Korean, the Japanese is all good, and the Indonesian's really good, and then the Chinese, and but it was funny how he was like up against the Mexican stuff because that's going to be your Fender, your Charvel, which is on your shirt.
Sure.
And I've played a couple of the new Charvels. I've played a couple of the new Jacksons.
Your shirt says Charvel? I thought I was wearing my Carvel shirt.
Your ice cream shirt?
Come Puss and Fudgy the Whale.
So Jackson Charvel, both owned by Fender. And both similar in terms of like what you're going to get out of it. They're both considered shredder guitars, right? Mm-hmm. But I will say I don't disagree with this guy. If you play one of those new Charvels, the fretwork is not as good as what you get on the Jacksons coming out of Indonesia, which is surprising because it's Indonesia. That hammer is nothing special. I mean, it's not even a brand anymore. KMC uses it as a marketing name. They just source it. They build it in Indonesia or whatever. Not even a real brand. At least Jackson's a real brand. They have the U.S. custom shop and they do everything else. But like, it makes me wonder, like,
well, Hanger stopped making USA guitars, but aren't they building a new factory or aren't they starting up again?
If they are, it's something that's being driven by KMC, and I don't know. I don't know anybody inside of that company.
Yeah. Well, KMC was who's owned Hamer for years.
Right. They still do.
Yeah.
But
but who owns KMC is the question.
I think Jam.
Oh, really? Because I know all the drum shit got carted off to
DW.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think Jam owns a lot of people. It's a big Canadian company. They own a lot. They own US Music Corps now.
Oh, they do?
Oh, yeah.
And are US Music still distributing Marshall?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought it was an interesting conversation, and I'm curious if you've screwed around with enough guitars lately to have experienced any of that.
No. I don't play enough guitars to care. I basically play my one. I'm being honest. I play my one Strat. People will say to me all the time too, like, "Hey, you want to try my guitar?" Not really.
Yeah.
In fact, the only guitar I can say I've tried was the other day. My guitar player in the funk band said to me he bought a brand new G&L made in Indonesia, and the thing played fantastic.
Yeah.
These are great guitars. And I was explaining to him if anyone made an aftermarket bridge that would work better for me than the G&L bridge, if there was a direct replacement, then I would think about buying a G&L Strat. Otherwise, no. But for what are they? $399, $499. Those Indonesian G&L. It's an S500. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. Try them out. If you like them, get them. I think the neck is too small for my taste, but
I mean, you could. They got 12-inch radius. You could play your favorite Bonamassa songs. Oh, you don't know any? Oh, it's odd.
Ridiculous.
Guy's gonna reach out to me. Why do you hate on me so much? I don't hate on you. You just don't have any songs. Like, to me, I don't care about how good somebody is or not. It's nice. Like when Alcatraz came out, it was nice. Like I liked the songs and I liked Yngwie, and that was really cool. But in the scheme of things, do you really care? Like, do you measure up Adrian Smith and Dave Murray with the big shredders in the world? No, but Iron Maiden's fantastic because they have songs.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
It's all about songs. If you think you're bigger than the song, you missed the boat. You missed it because nobody remembers who the Beau Brummels were, but everyone remembers the song Laugh, Laugh. You don't know it? Okay.
I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
But a lot of my viewers will. Anyone
that's
that's born in 1965 earlier will be like, oh, yeah.
That's funny.
But, no one knows who the Beau, again, but the Beau Brummels, they'll be like, or like, the Small Faces. People sometimes won't remember what Small Faces are. But they'll say, oh, the name's familiar, but you say Itchy-Coo Park. It's all too beautiful. It's all too beautiful.
That's funny. I don't know Itchy-Coo Park, but I know the Small Faces. No.
They're only hit.
All right.
In fact, not only is it their only hit, but what was Blue Murder?
Wait, was the Small Faces the one with Rod Stewart, or was that the Faces?
The Faces.
Oh, never
When
mind. I
the
don't know.
Small Faces, Steve Marriott sang.
Yeah, I don't know him.
Yeah. And they had a couple of good songs.
I'm dating myself.
Yeah, well, you're a lot younger than I am. 13 years, a lot. 13 and 81. In December of 81, I started playing guitar.
Well, there you go.
And I'll tell you the albums that year, because I remember 81 like it was, I remember it clearly. Judas Priest, Point of Entry. And the big song on the radio that summer, too, was Winning Man by Crocus. I'm a winner. That was 81 for me.
Oh, man.
I loved Winning Man.
Yeah, no.
Summer was filled with Winning Man and Don't Go by Priest.
You remember the day that Ronald Reagan got shot?
Yeah.
Because you would have been conscious enough. Yeah.
I was 13.
Yeah. So you remember that day. That was the day I was born. Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
March 30th.
Yeah.
Your birthday, and pretended I remember the day he got shot.
Exactly. That's so funny.
Yeah, he was shot March 30th. What day were you born? Oh, March 30th?
Oh, oddly enough, yeah, that's right.
My memory's unbelievable.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Speaking of Point of Entry, Rob Halford stinks. It's my latest
I saw you've been going off on Halford. I have no problem with somebody not liking Halford. I like him, but I don't love him. He was not my favorite singer, but he's good. But the funny thing is, I love how people get so offended. It's like, oh wait, someone doesn't like your favorite singer wearing leather chaps and a hat, and you're gonna go defend him till the end. It's like, come on.
Like, okay, we talk about the guitar stuff all the time, where I fully admit, like, oh, I love Rush, but I don't really particularly like Alex's tone, or any of those conversations. I like Judas Priest, but Rob Halford is. I don't understand why he's always in that conversation. Whenever you go online and you see these knuckleheads talking about the greatest metal singers of all time, he's always in that conversation. And frankly, he's not a great singer. He's got a voice where somebody described him as kind of like talking his way to the next high note. Which he kind of does. But then when he hits the high notes, it's all head voice. And it's all, which is not my favorite sort of singing. And in a way, and this is an extreme comparison, but in a way, to me, he's kind of like the Billy Corgan of his band. And what I mean by that is he's not a good voice, but he works really well for that music, and I like the band. I like Smashing Pumpkins. Do I think Billy Corgan's good? No. Do I think Halford's good? Not really.
I'll say this about Halford.
People are going to be mad I compared him to Billy Corgan.
No, but here's what I say about Halford. He wasn't my favorite singer. I don't think he's bad, but if you remember a video called Stars, We're Stars.
Right. Yeah, I know.
singer in that video, everyone was kind of pretty good. And Halford came in later and he's like, well, fire! And he's screaming on the top of his lungs, nailing those notes. And it's bringing in the one trick pony to do the one trick, which is great. and that's great, but that's what he's there for. He's that guy. And then you had guys.
We are something in the night. We are fire and light.
When you watch all those guys and they're all trying to sing like Dio.
Yeah.
They're all doing their Dio thing. Dave Meniketti, I thought, was very good. I thought Jeff Tate from Queensryche was very good.
And he was wearing his Bret the Hitman Hart glasses.
Yeah. And I thought, you know, and then there was some people that weren't very good.
Right.
And, but I don't think that even matters. Like, you could take a band like Journey. Steve Perry's awesome.
Right.
Incredible. Great singer. And with that voice, they've made great albums and they've made bad albums.
Sure.
And by that, I mean, I do not think that Evolution is a great album.
Okay.
In fact, other than Love and Touch and Squeeze on the album, you could throw it out. And then Escape is phenomenal.
Right. Every song is a hit.
It's phenomenal.
Sure.
And so you could take a band like Judas Priest and be like, Turbo is not a very good album.
I'm your turbo lover. No, it's the worst.
Well, I could just go to Parental Guidance is the worst song ever. But you go back to Screaming for Vengeance, and that album's phenomenal.
I like it.
It's great. And in that album, if you said, what do I think of Halford? Halford's a genius on that album. He's great. I love his voice on that record. However, I can appreciate your disdain for him because I can listen to other singers and be like, I can't stand that guy's. Like Canned Heat. Remember the band Canned Heat? I'm on the road again. I hated that guy.
I think that was a Shannon Tweed movie, too.
What's that?
It was like a girls in prison
Skinamax
movie.
But you know what? Canned Heat had that song On the Road Again, but they also had Going Up the Country. Mm-hmm. I'm going up the country. I don't know.
Yeah, no thanks.
I could never stand that guy's voice. In fact, it reminds me a lot of the guy, what was his name? Shannon Hoon? What was the guy's name that was in...
All I can do is just pour some tea for two.
I
yeah.
hate his voice.
Yeah, right. I agree.
Great song.
Yeah.
Great song. Horrible voice.
Yeah, not my favorite. Yeah.
I can appreciate somebody saying that they didn't like Rob Halford's voice. What I don't understand is when people get their panties in a bunch and they're like, you don't like something I like. Like someone can sit there and say, I suck. I don't care. I'm not the, you know, it's like so funny because people get like so ego driven. Everybody wants to, when they first start playing guitar, to be the best. They want to be the fastest. And then at some point you realize somebody's always going to be better.
Yeah.
It's like you're chasing something. So then it's like you just want to be the best you. And you want to go out and you want to make great music. And the song has to be the ultimate, the end. How can I make this song the best, this song that it is? And you can hear that some guys still don't know that because when they go play, it's a wanking of, you know, whatever it is. So I think back in the Judas Priest days of like Screaming for Vengeance, those guys made that album thinking, how can we make the best metal album that has a balance of wank and substance? And where that wank was substance. And then later when I hear songs like, what's that one Painkiller?
Right.
A Painkiller to me is the exact opposite of its title. I'm running for Excedrin when I hear a song off that album.
Sure.
It's just piercing noise to me.
Yeah. Anytime I encounter somebody whose entire singing style or for an entire song is that head voice singing, I'm not into it.
Right.
Like, with exception to the nostalgia that I have for Tears for a Clown, you know, from being a kid, I don't like listening to Smokey. Every time I hear Smokey Robinson, everything's up here. It's just like, dude, come on.
Yeah, but I don't think that's his head voice. I think that's his voice.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, either way, it's just not for me. I'll take David Ruffin all day long.
You love David Ruffin.
He's got a good voice, but no, I like the Temptations after they fired his ass.
I do. The Eddie Kendricks and what was the other? I forget the other guy's name that sang. But they had a lot of good hits after David Ruffin. You know why they got rid of him?
I like the Temptations and Dewey Cox. Oh, the Temptations.
You know why they got rid of David Ruffin?
I don't know. Oh, wait. I might.
Because
was he married to Berry Gordy's daughter or something?
No.
I think of somebody else.
Berry Gordy's daughter was married to Jermaine Jackson.
That's what it was. Okay, it was Jackson 5.
Yeah, David Ruffin basically went to the management there and was like, the band should be called David Ruffin and the Temptations, just like you guys just did for Diana Ross and the Supremes. And they were like, yeah, no. And I guess he was extremely difficult to work with at that point and started becoming like an egomaniac, and they just let him go.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
I believe it.
But his brother had a big hit, too. Remember his brother, Jimmy Ruffin?
No.
What
wait, I do know the name Jimmy Ruffin.
Broken heart.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess I
brother.
didn't realize that was his brother. I just didn't put it together.
Yeah.
All right? Yeah, but, whatever.
I love old soul stuff. In fact,
the best.
Anyone that's watching my channel, go back and watch. I do a bunch of album reviews, and one of them was Marvin Gaye's Stubborn Kind of Fellow album. And it's a record. It was the first record that Marvin did that was in the vein that Berry Gordy wanted him to go, because in the beginning, Marvin wanted to be like a Frank Sinatra type singer. And so his first album is a crooner album that didn't do any business. And then his first big album was his second album called Stubborn Kind of Fella. And it's a great record. And some of that old Motown stuff has some of the best songs. And, Smokey wrote some great songs over the time. In fact, there's a band here locally, which I've talked about before, the Jay Giles Band. And one of their first big hits was a song called First I Look at the Purse. And that's an old song that Smokey wrote for the Contours. But yeah, all that stuff's so good.
Well, let's wrap this up because I got to get myself moving, get a little bit of work done.
All righty.
It's been a good time, but that time has come to an end. I'm glad this was a very upbeat episode with lots of positivity toward all the new music that's out there. Yes, all right, catch you later, everybody.
Very good.
You're listening to Guitar Talk with Dave and John.